city. So yeah, so I was asked to talk about the future of design practice in 45 minutes. It's quite a big thing to talk about. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try and start with the history, because I think whatever sort of future worlds we think about cannot be thought without reflecting on how it started. So before industrialization as we know it, and for a few hundred years, the production of goods was in the hands of artisans. Some might call them the world's first designers. At that point, the amount of production was equal to demand. Because of, well, we say production was equal to demand. It was, of course, a very hierarchical and feudal society, so not everybody got stuff. But the critical aspect here was that the person designing and building the product was the same. So Baroque furniture is an example of this. Craftsmen, furniture with lots of craftsmanship like ornamental stuff, gold, marble, decorations of nymphs, cherubs, mirrors, and angels. Fast forward many, many years to the Industrial Revolution, which we saw radical shift in the way goods were being produced. Mass manufacturing completely changed the artisan's role. And there were many who, but the thing is that while it kind of democratized the goods, the fact that more people could get these things, it also tried to a lot of people felt that the craftsmanship was lost in the process. And so a new movement reacting to this sort of industrialization was founded by William Morris, together with other British artists and intellectuals, known famously as the arts and crafts movement in the late 19th century. This movement had a strong influence on the intellectual attitudes of artisans, designers, who then began to explore how can we combine efficiency and functionality with beautiful artisanal value of products made by craftspeople. And that's when American designer Joseph Simon coined the term industrial design, which we now have come to know as so many different things. And around the same time, the first industrial design movement was formed in Germany with the Bauhaus design school, which is very well known, has brought so many well-known works to the world. So the Bauhaus workshops were essentially laboratories in which prototypes of products suitable for mass production and typical of that time were being carefully developed and constantly improved. The school was closed when Nazis came to power in Germany, and its main exponents left Germany and moved to other parts of Europe, but mostly to America. It led to the formation of what is known as ICSID today, the Industrial Council for the Society of Industrial Designers. ICSID received special status from the United Nations to start working with UNESCO on projects that use design to improve the human condition. So first time the idea that design could be used to improve human condition. Design as problem solving came into being. It was with this framework that Charles and Ray Eames came to India to set up what is now known as the National Institute of Design, where I studied, well, I graduated 15 years ago. They wrote the famous India report. Let me read out something from it. In the light of the dramatic acceleration with which change is taking place in India and the seriousness of the basic problems involved, we recommend that without delay there be a sober investigation into those values and those qualities that Indians hold important to a good life. That there be a close scrutiny of these elements that go to make up a standard of living. We recommend that those who make this investigation be prepared to follow it up with a restudy of the problems of the environment and shelter, to look upon the infinite detailed problems of services and objects as though they were being attacked for the first time, to restate solutions to these problems in theory and an actual prototype, to explore the evolving symbols of India. A really big mandate, again under the umbrella of problem solving. Designers in the service of the country, in the service of the industry. And decades later today, we see that philosophy has framed design and its future visions for design practices in studios across the world. Take IDEO, very famous, well-known design studio, and see how they frame their work. So IDEO takes a human-centered, design-based approach to helping organizations in the public and private sectors innovate and grow. We identify new ways to serve and support people by uncovering latent needs, behaviors, and desires. Interesting, slightly confused message, but like, okay, so we want to do a bit of human-centered design, we want to solve problems, but then we also want to discover latent desires. So we've moved into slightly new territories. Now here I'm taking the liberty to talk about design very broadly, rather than discipline specific. I know at Savannah you study various different kinds of programs and disciplines, but let's kind of forget that disciplinary boundaries for a minute in this talk and see, you'll find out that by the end of it, those boundaries may not matter that much anymore. Let's take another example. Frog Design, another well-known studio. They say we transform businesses at scale by creating systems of brand, product, and service that deliver a distinctly better experience. We strive to touch hearts and move markets. Our passion is to transform ideas into realities. We partner with clients to anticipate the future, evolve organizations, and advance the human experience. Lots of words, lots of sentences. Again, quite difficult to really understand what is it that they really do that solves human condition. I'm not being excessively critical about it, but I would like to try and understand what is it that they actually do as a design studio. And beyond problem solving, now there is a new kid on the block that is being embraced by organizations outside of the design studio or practice. It's called design thinking. Basically, repackaged design solutionism. So, in many, many different ways to say that designers are also thinkers, and the kind of intuitive thinking that designers bring to the table is important if businesses need to survive. It is important, has been important for decades and decades, but it's being spoken in language that a lot of people across disciplines, companies are able to understand. But behind this evolving design studio practice or a company model, whatever you call it, behind the design model is this infrastructure. Mostly invisible from our everyday lives, it's the infrastructure that keeps this demand and supply chain alive. And entwined in this image are our desires, all our I stuffs, including this one, including everything I'm wearing. Highly dubious labor laws, illegal work practices, and so much more. Whatever we design and whatever problems we solve, this is the infrastructure that the Industrial Revolution brought to us. And whatever design practice you work in, whichever part of the world, design is very much embedded in this image. And so, if we are to start looking at the future of design practice, and when you guys graduate, when students graduate from design, where are you going to go? Whom are you going to work for? How are you going to work? We started off thinking about design as an author of craftsperson, design is problem solving, design is design thinking. So design is what next? What happens? Where do we go next? And I think for that we need to start looking at the world outside of the design world, outside of studios, outside of companies, to what's happening around us. So one of the biggest trends affecting the design industry today is the rise of the new age of technological empowerment. This image shows two kids participating in a Raspberry Jam session, where kids move from being passive consumers of technology to actively engaging with it. Today we have over 1,500 hackerspaces, including one in Antarctica, with over 1 million users. A cross between your garage and a clubhouse, they provide space, tools, and like-minded colleagues for unusual DIY projects. Over 264, maybe even more Fab Labs that are currently operating worldwide with 3D printers and all sorts of tools that allow people to make their own things. Over 300 DIY biolabs across the world. Recently, this was designed and developed in the UK. It's called the BBC Microbits, a pocket-sized codable computer with motion detection, a built-in compass, and a Bluetooth technology, which is given freely to every child in year 7 or equivalent across the UK. It aims to inspire young people to get creative with digital and develop core skills in science, technology, and engineering. There's even a hackerspace crash in San Francisco called Mothership Hacker Moms, where moms can indulge in some creative hacking to the sound of babbling rugrats. Thanks to this kind of acceleration in cheap, easy-to-access digital tools and technologies, we are witnessing stories of small groups of people, not designers, people who are mostly not designers, creating products that might perhaps have required the brute force of a corporation and the force of design companies. For instance, here you see members of the Athens wireless network community installing their satellite dishes to build their own internet. This network was originally built by a community of hackers in response to the poor and expensive internet services in Greece. But as the news of mass surveillance hit the world, the organizers saw their subscribers soaring, as a large number of citizens are now seeking to control their own network. And then this idea of the global village construction set, where Martin Jakubowski has made open source blueprints for 50 low-cost machines, which will allow anyone to build all the infrastructure a community might need. Bear in mind, Martin is not a designer. He has a PhD in fusion physics, but dissatisfied with his remoteness, has become a farmer and a social innovator. Another example is this lab in a box by Hectaria, a neatly packaged toolkit that will enable you to start tinkering with DNA in the privacy of your own home. Designed and built by synthetic biology students, not designers. And of course we know of this, the object that is probably one of the best brand campaigns and brought Cody Wilson to be labeled the 14th most dangerous man in the world, created and built this 3D printed gun, a law student, not a designer, and now acquired by the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. It's that same very ethos of guerrilla innovation, hacking, design, used by Libyan rebels for what I call jugaad warfare, where they hack game controllers to control the DIY tankers to fight Gaddafi. And so, these are just some stories, just some examples of a new kind of word that you may not be able to describe as design. In this world of technological empowerment, technology is open source. Patents are old-fashioned. Ideas are crowdsourced. Innovation is subversive. Design stars are not worshipped. All the things that a traditional design company or a traditional company hires designers for is not valued in this world. And then on the other side of this technological empowerment, we also see the rise of power in the hands of a select few, thanks to the way in which these technologies are developing. So, the present is stranger than fiction. This is a galloping wildcat robot made by Boston Dynamics, a company in Boston, robotics company. It was funded by DARPA, American Intelligence Agency, defense program, and is now acquired by Google. When you start seeing stories like this, a popular cab company, Uber, no, not a cab company, a technology company, Uber, uses GPS to punish drivers in China who get too close to protests. Or last year's events in Ukraine, when thousands of Ukrainians, protesters, spontaneously received this text message on their cell phone: "You are registered as a participant in mass disturbance." As a new law prohibiting public demonstrations went into effect. Using a cell phone near a clash lands you on the regime's hit list, showing how technology is already being used to detect dissent. So the same technology that is empowering millions of people across the world is also making some nation states, governments, and companies very, very powerful.